Good morning or good afternoon. Today we're going to start working on the fruit drink labels, chapter 3. I'm super excited about this one. This is another new one that we're going to start on. So I'm going to go ahead and move the book itself over to my other screen so I can see it while you're following along. We're going to open up our files. And we're going to open up the juice one, so we need to unzip it. Or extract all. And we're going to open the Juicy Labels file. We're going to make sure our swatches are open. So we're going to go ahead, go down to here and click on swatches. There's many in this one, so I want to make sure to click here and drag it down. I'm going to click here. Select all unused. I'm going to hit the control key, or if you're on a Mac, you're going to hit the command key. And we're going to click the bottom 3 here to unselect those. Once you make sure to unselect these 3 at the bottom folder, then we're going to delete the others. We're going to say yes to confirm. We're going to do the show the list view option. We're going to drag it down till we can see all of them. Now the grays here, we're going to grab that folder and we're going to delete the grays because we don't need the grays. Now for the fruit colors, we're just going to click the little arrow button to hide them for the moment. And we're going to Control S to save. We're going to go back to the windows to the gradient. We're going to open up the gradient file. Now we're going to choose the radial gradient here, the one in the center. We're going to double click the left color stop on the ramp here. This is the ramp. Now, as you can see, it's showing us another slider. We just need our swatches. And we're going to choose the swatch that is the C0M10Y80, which is this yellow right here. And you'll notice that this changes up here. So we're going to hit escape, which closes that box. We're going to double click on the right side of the color stop on the ramp. Now we're going to choose the color that is the C0M28Y96, which I believe is going to be this one here. And we're going to hit escape again. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to click about, you see where my plus sign is showing up on my mouse? I'm going to click about here to add a new color stop. Now I'm going to double click on the color stop. And I'm going to choose that color again that we had just used, the one with the M28Y96. I'm going to hit escape. And I'm going to drag this until the location says it's about 45-ish%. And I can actually go down here and change it to 45 to be exact. Now there are these little small diamonds right here. So we're going to click on the one that's between the first and the second one. So we're going to click on this one. And we're going to drag it until you see the location say about 75, or you can just double click and change it to 75. So I'm going to open the swatches again. And now I'm going to find the color that is the C447. And just so I can have this while I have the gradient open, I of course dragged it out. So now I'm going to click on this color and I'm going to drag it over to here to add another spot about here. And you'll see that it drops that color in there. And I'm going to change that location to be 70%. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click on this and we're going to drag it over here under the label colors, or above the label color, sorry. So right under black, we're going to drop it. You see that it's a new gradient swatch number 1. We're going to double click on it and we're going to label it Honey Radial. Hit enter or hit OK. Now we're going to go back over here and we're going to hit Linear Gradient. We're going to do the same thing again. We're going to click on the swatch, drag it under the honey, let it go, and we're going to change it to Honey Linear. Enter. Control S. Alright, so now I'm going to take my swatches, I'm going to move it back into here so I don't lose it. I'm going to go ahead and close that up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this space called the pasteboard. So we have this here. This is your artboard, but this spot over here is normally not going to be seen in your design. So once you push out your design, you're not going to see this. This is where a lot of us kind of do some extra work that we're just kind of testing out before we move it into our artboard. So we're going to use the polygon tool right here. And I'm going to reset my, let me move something real quick. I'm going to reset my fill color and stroke color. And I'm going to click over here so I can go ahead and make my polygon. Now the radius of my polygon, I want it to be 0.75 inch. And I'm going to allow it to have 6 sides, and I'm going to say OK. So there's my polygon tool. Or not tool, but there's my polygon. I'm going to change the stroke to be 3. And I'm going to change the fill to be the honeycomb radial. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the gradient tool here. You'll see as I move my mouse over the tool, you're going to see the gradient annotator controls pop up. Okay, so once we have this clicked, you're going to have this pop up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our mouse, and right here on the top left, right past here when you see your crosshairs pop up, you're going to click, and you notice that once I start dragging, all those annotators move. So I'm going to diagonally drag across here, and once I'm past the line on the opposite side, right about here, I'm going to let go. See how this kind of shapes it out a little bit differently and the colors are a little bit different? Now I'm going to go up to this dot right here where you see that my aspect ratio control changes into an oval, and I'm going to drag it in until it's more of an oval shape. So now in this panel, I'm going to look at this, and I want my angles to be more of a 30, so I was close. So -30, and then my oval or my aspect ratio close to 70%. I was pretty darn close to that. So we can make the minor adjustments in here. So now we're going to save it and hit Control S. So we're going to unselect everything. So I'm going to hit this up here, make sure, click outside of that, make sure there's nothing selected. Before I do that though, I need to go over here and change that yellow. I missed a step. I'm going to change the stroke to the lightest yellow I have. Just like that. So we're going to leave it at that. Unselect it. It says the lightest yellow in the label color. So probably needs to be the lightest yellow in the label would be that one. There. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'll Control save it. Click off of it. Make sure I have my swatches panel open. Click it. Drag it above or below the black. Now I'm going to type in honeycomb. Hit enter. Once I know that that is in there, I'm going to click on this one and hit delete. Now I'm going to go to view, fit artboard in window. I'm going to double click the thumbnail here in the swatches. Now we're in the edit pattern mode. Make sure that your show swatch bounds is unselected. In the tile type, I'm going to choose hex by column so that they're more together. I'm going to click on the hexagon shape on the artboard. I'm going to zoom in so I can see it real good. Here I know that my width is a 1.5-ish and a height of 1.3-ish. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that is turned off so the line is through it. And I'm going to change the width to be, so here it's saying 1.5489, 1.3407. Over here it's 1.5, 1.299. So we're going to change it over here to match that over there. So now I'm going to change this to be 1.5 and then this to be 1.299 so that it fits better. You can do size tile to art, which will force it to do this here. Or if you don't, you can have it unclicked and then you can manually just change it, which is what I was just kind of showing you how to do. Either way is fine. Now that you're done, click the done button up here at the top. We're going to zoom out just a little bit. We're going to get the rectangle tool to match exactly to the artboard. There you go. We're going to do a stroke of none with the honeycomb as the fill. Without unclicking it, we're going to do option, arrange, send to back. Notice how it goes behind everything else. We're going to deselect everything. So go back to your selection, deselect everything. In the swatches panel, we're going to double click back on this honeycomb so we can re-enter the edit mode here, and we're going to change the opacity to 20%. We're going to say done. Notice how it changes the coloring behind it. We're going to hit Control S. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use the selection tool to select the rectangle that's behind the text on the left side of the board. And in the swatches panel, we're going to click on the honeycomb linear. Whoops, wrong one. We're going to go over here and move the, double click on the stroke to bring it forward to the front. And then on the swatches panel, we're going to select honey linear. And then in the gradient panel, we are going to click the apply gradient along stroke, which is your middle option here. So apply gradient along the stroke, which changes where your gradient falls on the lineage. So when you click that, you'll notice how it changes it from being kind of all over to the lighter side up here, the darker side down here. So now we're going to choose the width tool. We're going to zoom in a little bit on our piece right here. And we're going to click on the top left corner here. We're going to drag towards the center of the rectangle. Not a lot, you don't want to overtake it, but just enough. And with the cursor, I want to see the width being right about 2. So if I double click on it, I can change the width to be 0.2 if I need to. And just say okay. And then what I can do is I can move along here until I see an intersect piece right here. And that's going to give me the center. And then I can hit the Alt, or if you have a Mac, it'll be the Option. I'm going to press the Alt button, and I'm going to click and drag down until it shows me 0.05 for side 1. So I want 0.05, or as close to it as I can get, for side 1. And if I need to, I can always go back and fix it, or I can just double click on it and then change this here. Okay. I can click on this point again, and I can move it back to about here if I want to. And you'll notice that the further I move it forward or the further I move it back will make it thinner or wider depending on what's going on. So if I wanted to make it a little bit further, I can kind of move it over the A. So it's about like 1/3 of the way through. So I'm going to leave that there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here. I'm going to double click on this side. I'm going to change this to on the right corner. Side 1 is going to be 0.75. With side 2 being 0.11, and I'm going to say OK. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to kind of adjust these similarly. Do something similar with the points here. Just kind of make them similarly built. You know, and you could have some fun with them. Don't go too crazy, but you know, make them professionally looking. And then you're going to Control S to save. Now we're going to move over, and you see some elements over here in the pasteboard. And I'm going to use my selection tool to grab these 3 lines. Now looking over here at the transform, I am noting the height of the lines, which is 0.1. I'm going to go to Window, Brushes, and I'm going to drag these into the Brushes menu. And I'm going to change this to Art Brush and say OK. And for the name, I'm going to name it Multi-Color Lines. For the width field, I'm going to make sure that I have it set to 100%. And then I'm going to say OK. So now I'm going to click over here. I'm just going to double click on this to enter into a isolation group. I'm going to click on this line. It's got a stroke of 2. And now I'm going to click on my line. And I'm going to change that stroke to 2. I'm going to do the same thing with this bottom line here. I'm going to change it to that and change it to a stroke of 2. Just to kind of see what it's going to look like. I'm not crazy about it, so for me, I'm going to just change it back to the stroke of 1. It's definitely too much. That looks better. You can hit the escape key or just double click off of it to get it back out of the isolation mode. And we're going to hit Control S to save. Next, I'm going to... Alright, so we're going to go over here. We're going to grab these. We're going to move this under the black. We're going to drag this one, move it under the B, and we're going to drag this one under the little trails, and we're going to rename them. So this is going to be B, enter. This is going to be trails, enter. And this is going to be drips, enter. So now we can go over here, drag and select all of them and delete it. So now we got to go to brushes. We're going to hit new brush and then select pattern brush and say OK. We're going to name this to be B trails. We're going to change this to 75%. The side, this is called a side tile. We're going to change that to be the trails. And then the end tile is going to be our B. Once it looks like this, you're going to say, okay. We're going to select this loop here. And then select our B trails brush. And notice what happens. Click off of it and then hit Control S to save. Alright, so now that we've got this done, we know we've saved it. We're going to make these 4 lines here look like drips of honey. So we're going to make another new brush, and we're going to make this one another pattern brush. We're going to say okay. We're going to name this one Honey Drips. For this side tile, we're going to do the drips. And we're going to say, okay. We're going to select, be careful because you could select the background by accident. You're going to select all 4 of these vertical lines. And then click on this brush. Notice that my drips are going upside down. That's okay right now. Click off of them for a moment. We're going to double click this brush. Now you can go over here and flip them. Flip along. Okay, and just say okay. Now you can apply to the strokes and look what happens. All right. If you went ahead and closed it out, that's fine too. But now what you can do is you can go down here and choose tints in the colorizations menu and hit OK. And you're going to apply to strokes. And what happens? Your colors are popping up now. So from left to right, we're going to change how heavy these strokes are. So for this one, I'm going to change this stroke to be 0.3. This stroke, I'm going to change to be 0.5. This stroke, I'm going to change to be 0.75. And then the last stroke is going to be 0.5. I'm going to deselect everything and we're going to save the file. So Control S. Alright, so on our brushes menu, we're going to go to the panels over here, or the option menu, and we're going to select all unused and delete. We're going to click yes. Now we're going to click on this again and we are going to choose the Save Brush Library. And we're going to go to wherever our files are that we saved. Mine are on my desktop, so let me figure out where that is. There we go. In your WIP folder, I need to start my Project 3 one. There we go. I'm going to name this as my Juicy Brushes. Make sure it's an AI file. And we're going to save. And we can close this now. So in our windows, we're going to go to Brush Libraries. Windows. Brush Libraries. Other Library. Navigate to our Working in Progress. Select our Juicy Brushes. Click Open. And there they are. So now we've accessed just our brand new brushes that we've created just for this project. And we're going to save by saying Control S and move on to the next stage. So now we can go over here. We can go to Windows, Windows Symbols. So we're going to click onto the top right corner of this here. We're going to select New Symbol, and we're going to name it Juicy Logo. We're going to make sure it's a dynamic symbol. We're going to leave it as center registration point selected, and we're going to say OK. So in the top right corner, we're going to click on this logo piece right here, basically. We're going to say new. We're going to name this Juicy Logo. Leave it at dynamic symbol. Leave it at the center registration and say OK. On this side, we're going to click on the grapefruit piece as well. We're going to name it text grapefruit. Do everything exactly the same as we did before. Say OK. We're going to open the panel options over here and choose large list view. Select all unused. Delete. Yes. Control S. Click off of everything. So now when we go to Windows, the symbol library, other library, you can go to your desktop or wherever you saved your folder. We're going to go for the label fruit and open. We're going to drag this label over onto here. Somehow I have misplaced my background. Hold on. We're going to go to View, Hide Bounding Box. In the Properties panel, so we're going to change our X to 8, our Y to 5.75. We're going to make sure our constraint option is active, and we're going to change our W and say 70%. There we go. There we go. Look at that. All right. Now we're going to go to Object. Nope, we need to select our B. Now we're going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. And that's going to bring our little bee guy up in front of the fruit. We're going to deselect everything. We're going to go back to View, Show Bounding Box, Control S. I'm liking this. Okay. We're going to say View, Fit Artboard and Window. We're going to go to the Symbols panel. We're going to select our text, and we're going to go to the panel here, and we're going to say Duplicate. We're going to double click it to highlight it, and we're going to say Text-Lemon. Enter. And then right here, we're going to double click on the icon as well. Now you notice it kind of opens up its own little section. So this is a private panel that we're working on all of a sudden. So we're going to change this word here from grapefruit to lemon. We're going to go now to our swatches, and we're going to change that lemon feel to the color that says lemon under the fruit colors. You're going to do that 2 more times. You're going to make one that has lime and change it to the lime color. You're going to do another one that has orange, and you're going to change that to the orange color. When you're done, you're going to hit the arrow button here to exit out of it. Now we're going to create additional artboards. So Control S, and we're going to go to Windows, or Window, and Artboards. In the artboard panels, we're going to select on this first artboard, and we're going to go up here and say Duplicate Artboard. And we're going to do that 2 more times. And then we're going to click on this little button here to arrange them in a very nice, neat column. So we're going to click on the 2 columns, and then we're going to do 1-inch spacing. And then we're going to say OK. So it looks something like this. So the very first artboard, we're going to double click it and change it to say grapefruit and hit enter. The second artboard, we're going to name it to lemon. The third one is going to be lime. The fourth one is going to be orange. We're going to say View, Fit, All in Window, which it should be fitting just fine right now. So in the selection tool, I'm going to grab the selection tool. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go to Symbols, and I'm going to select the lemon and use it in place. So in the selection tool, using the selection tool, I'm going to click on the grapefruit. In the properties tool, so we're going to select our image for this one. We know we're going to make it lemon. So we're going to go down here and say replace, and we're going to replace this to lemon. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. So we're going to select the grapefruit, click on the replace symbol button, and replace it to lime. And do the same thing over here. Replace it to orange. Control S to save. We're going to say View, Fit All, and Window. We're going to double click on this. It's going to say something about editing the symbol. We'll apply it all. Yes, we're going to say OK. We're going to click the Shift button. We're going to click on the U and the B shapes in the logo. And we're going to change the colors to the one that's the C0M28Y96, which I believe is this one. Yep. We're going to hit the escape key. There you go. Notice how it changes on all of them. Control S. We're going to hit the direct selection tool now. The lemon artboard, we're going to close these so they're not in the way. We're going to click on this right here, and we're going to change the fill to be lemon. We're going to take this top piece here, we're going to change it as well. We're going to change this piece right here, and we're going to change that to 50%. There you go. So we moved it from the swatch over to this and then changed it to 50%. Now you have your swatch. So we're going to do the same thing with the lime. So we're going to click on here. The fill, we're going to go back to swatches, change it to the green. Click on the red, change it to the green. Click on the inside of the rind piece, change it to the green. Move over here, change it to the 50%. Hit enter. And then we're going to do that with the orange as well. We're going to go back to the swatches, go to the orange, change the top to the orange, change this to the orange as well, change the fill to be the 50%. All right, so here we're going to say Control S to save it. All of these are done. So now with the selection tool, the regular selection tool, so for like the orange one, we're going to select the whole thing here. We're going to go to the symbols. We're going to say new symbol. We're going to label it label, done, and say OK. We're going to go to the panel here where it says save symbol library. We're going to label them juicy symbols. And then save. Window. Symbols library. Other library. Juicy symbols. Open. And there it is. Okay. Control S to save. Control S to save all that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go open a file. Here we're going to open the bottle. We're going to go find this orange label. We're going to drag it over. We're going to shift and click the bottle together. Now that they're both selected, we're going to go to Object. We're going to say Mockup, Make. And it's going to say something about install. We're going to go ahead and click install if you don't have that already because it is a beta piece. you're going to click the mock-up button. And then inside this mesh, you can do a couple of things. You can drag it down to fit it a little bit better if you want it to look a little different. You can turn it a little bit more depending on how you want it to look. It's all in kind of how you want it to do. So there, of course there's some little wonky things about it that I'm not crazy about yet, but it gives you the right idea of what it can and can't do. So once you're done with that, you're going to save. So Control S, you're going to save the bottle and you can close it. Once you're done, I'm going to need the image of this, and so the AI bottle the AI bottle, and then the AI of this. And then that is finished for this week. Let me know if you have any questions.